Did enough to wrench it away. Caught on the dime for Hensel. You're kidding me. Whose depth and resolve is being tested. Cotton drops. Not sure what to do, so kicks it back up to the top. Shot clock at 5 for Cotton. That's ridiculous. Bryce Cotton at his very, very best.
Hello, everybody. It has been far too long, but the Wildcat Wrap is back. Season 1, episode 17. 17, who would have thought that people kept us on the air for 16 episodes before this? But today's podcast, of course, is proudly supported and presented by the team at the Basketball Fix. So for all your Basketball Fix needs, especially in this silly season, free agency season, all the rumors are going crazy. And we are going to talk about all of it. And by we, I mean myself and El Super Tolo, the 7'3" 300 Dechlan Paidra. Dech, you come here with a nice relaxed vibe. Got the hat on. Sunday chill time, Sunday recording time for the Wildcats podcast. It's been far too long. How are you coping with the post NBL season blues? What is keeping you busy, Dech? I guess as we do get from an NBL perspective, whilst the season is over, it's almost the most fun time around talking about all the players that may come and go. But how have you been, mate?
No, I've been good, mate. Just flat out working, actually. Now there's no NBL to look at. I'm coming home and I'm finding myself quite bored. So I head off to the gym quite early these days and I seem to catch myself there for 3 hours. So it is a bit of a dead zone without any basketball to watch. I've actually kept up to date with Bryce overseas with the Mets in Puerto Rico. So I've been watching that. But yeah, ready to get into it. There's a lot to discuss about certain moves, players. Definitely a bit of a sad episode for Wildcat supporters. There's a lot to discuss. Maybe shed a few tears, maybe. But no, mate, I'm excited to get it rolling.
Yeah, no, as am I. And just before we get to all the good stuff and maybe a little bit of sad stuff, as you sort of touched on, hit up the Basketball Fix. So the website, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the channels. Our El Supremo, the captain, Josh Higgins, he's doing basketball free agency podcasts on a daily or every couple of days basis, keeping everyone in the loop from the NBL about all the teams, all the rumors, everything that may or may not be happening from a free agency perspective. So don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. But we are here to talk all things Perth Wildcats. So let's unpack maybe what has happened and what is shaping up in the free agency space with the moves that have happened so far and how possible roster spots are looking like. So let's maybe reflect. Let's be, a little bit sad, but let's sort of, think about the good stuff. We know that Bryce Cotton has made his decision. He is leaving the Perth Wildcats, not taking up a contract offer. We know that contract offer was a very, very strong one. It was in the million mark. It was going to be the highest paid player at Perth / the NBL, right in that realm and space. So, from my perspective, it wasn't really a surprise. It was definite disappointment. But as the season went on longer and longer, I just kind of felt that it was time for him. Not, of course, we wanted him to stay in the NBL for the rest of his career. Never wanted Bryce to go. He's just so sensational, not just from a Perth Wildcats perspective, but of course for the whole league too. Dechlan, you were really, really confident, and this sort of seemed to catch you off guard when we were sort of chatting off air. So why don't you give us your thoughts about your take on BC and his unfortunate leave from not only the Perth Wildcats, but the NBL too?
Yeah, it has shocked me, to be honest, the way that it's happened and just leaving it very last minute before free agency. The thing that I spoke about off air, and this is for the viewers to know, is his home's here, his wife's from here, he's been here for 10 years nearly, he's settled in, his daughter's nearly at that age for school, which, that's a big thing, like with a kid, moving them in and out of schools if you're playing professionally. So for all of that to be just moved and like he's gone, okay, I'm just going to change, I think there was some things behind the scenes that this has caused. And a lot of people will come out and say his relationship with JR is, just a professional level. It's nothing else more than that. But I don't think this is just because of JR and if they had an issue. I honestly think that he has had enough of the whole citizenship thing, the boomer Bryce, Basketball Australia not backing him. And I just want to say to Basketball Australia and to the Australian government, you really have fumbled. For the NBL, for basketball in Australia, for young kids to watch a superstar, you've absolutely fumbled one of the greatest of all time. And it's kind of ridiculous. Like, to look at this and for him to be like, I want to play for Australia, I want to be a citizen. Why not get it done? He has been stuffed around for years now, and I feel sorry for the guy because he has put his heart and soul into this league. He has made it so much more popular by what he has done, the views that he's brought in, everyone shouting him out. In my eyes, he's the greatest of all time, and I just don't know how you phase the greatest of all time out like that because he was in the country for 15 minutes without a piece of paper signed. But it is sad. We're all going to miss him. He's the best Wildcat of all time for sure. You can't just replace him with one player. That's just a given. So to the Wildcats fans, don't worry. We've got a lot of money to spend. The bank is full. We're going to be getting a few good players with this money, so don't stress. But it is going to be sad. We are going to miss BC. He was my favourite basketball player of all time in any of the leagues. So to now, we've got Doolittle for 3 years. We're going to build around him. But hopefully before Bryce's career is done, we see him in red again. And I'm sure that if we do, the RAC is going to be absolutely pumping. So, yeah, it is sad. Did I expect it to happen? No. I was actually quite confident, as we said, that he was going to stay. But we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, like it's a lot of uncertainty, but then also a lot of possibility too. But Dech, I love how you start this podcast, conspiracy theories, taking down the government, pot shots left, right, and center. This is just fantastic. Like the passion is there for everyone to see. And yeah, like you're spot on though, like literally 15 minutes that he was classified as out of the country. Like that's the determining factor in him just not getting his citizenship, locked away, And even going into the last Olympics, the only way that Brian Corgan could have him guaranteed on the team is if he was part of that 12-man squad. So the citizenship process for him to be locked in had to have Brian say he would be in the squad. And Brian couldn't say, well, I can't guarantee that. Now, is that the difference between them getting a bronze and, higher? Who knows? I don't know. Possibly because we know that they're still short on scoring and Bryce could have been that key playmaker that they need. He's wanted to come to the party for citizenship. He's been saying it from probably 1 or 2 years into his time in Perth. So I don't know. It's a lot of, as you sort of said, fumbling by the government, both federally and then Basketball Australia too. So big pot shots to Basketball Australia and the federal government. From you, Declan, you're in fine form. Started off terrifically. But let's get to all the speculation. Love the silly season. Love the free agency. And Josh Higgins from the Bustle Rack, he's been keeping us in the loop in the last couple of weeks. So there are so many rumors going around. So let's dissect a couple of them. So it's kind of like 2 now and what is potentially out there. Because as I said, the possibilities are kind of endless, and you're almost like a kid in a candy store. What are you going to get? Who could possibly, don the red jersey of the Perth Wildcats? What we do know though is Christian Doolittle, as you sort of touched on, he's signed for 3 years. Jesse Wags up. He is going around again. The veteran is going to be 63 when he starts. When he starts at the back end of this year, and then Dante Russo Nance. He's got a full contract spot, a roster spot. He's got 2 years remaining. Otherwise, it's sort of like open slather. So I firstly want to get your quick thoughts on Christian Doolittle. Great, confirmation signing a couple of weeks ago, and then Jesse was last week too. So just give us your quick thoughts on those two individuals. We know they're locked away, and what can they bring, do you think, to the Perth Wildcats for season 25-26?
Yeah, I think signing Doolittle for 3 years was massive. I'm not quite sure what they would have offered him for 3 years, but it must be a decent amount. He's an all-out gun, to be honest. Like, the way he has played for us defensively, offensively, I think I've said it 1,000 times. Like, it would probably be in every podcast by now, but he is just a weapon. He doesn't stop. He can play 38 to 35 minutes a game. He's tough, hits the hard shots. I'm so glad that we've got him for 3 years, because he essentially now is what Bryce Cotton was. Like, you build the team around Bryce for however long it was, 9 years, 10 years. Now this is Doolittle's time. This is his 3rd season he's going to be going into. He's going to have 5 seasons with us by the end of his contract. That's a good amount of time to build around someone, have them as the face of your team. And just to add to that, you've got Jesse for 1 year as the captain again. I did not see him going around for another year. So I am shocked by that. He's really putting in the training. He's taken the secret juice to keep his body going. And it's good to definitely have those two back after losing Bryce. There's a bit of stability there, in my opinion. And not just from a scoring or defense standpoint, but just as a leadership sort of standpoint. Those two bring a lot of that. And the calmness that they bring as well definitely helps the team. So that's perfect. Those guys for next season, that really helps set the base up for the team. Shout out to Danny Mills. Good work on getting that done. Dante Russo-Nance, I don't know if I would have given him another 2 years and a full contract. I just haven't seen enough. He was a development player, so, I mean, it is hard to nitpick at him because he does only get junk minutes. But, you know, I look at him, he's very young, so it's hard to say, but he's got the base to be sort of another Tai Webster, if you know what I mean. He's got that energy, the fancy footwork, and if he can develop himself with a decent skill set over the next 3 years, he can become like a mini Tai Webster. So the potential's there. It's more another question is if he can get to that point. So we'll see how he goes next season. If he gets more minutes, that'll be good. But good work to the Wildcats to get those two locked away. It definitely sets us up for a good start to 2025-2026 season.
Yeah, Danny Mills working wonders as he always does too. And I think with Dante's contract, when he signed for the Wildcats, it was a 3-year deal, so 1 year development player, and then the 2 years were automatically on the book. So that was his contract. That was how it happened. So he didn't sign recently. That was just part of the deal that he actually signed. Yeah, Jesse certainly surprised, but clearly he's been taking the workout routines that you've been doing, Declan. So just to keep him up and in the loop. And sort of he's in fighting fit, just like you are. So great work, Dech, on keeping him just in the shape that he needs to sort of be fully fit for the season. And Doolittle, an absolute no brainer. So that was done deal. It had to be done as soon as he came out about 6 weeks ago, I think, on another podcast, not as good as this one, but another podcast. And he said, "I want to stay long term." As soon as you hear that from a player, You're like, this is going to get done really quickly. And thankfully to Danny and the team, it was. But sort of what else is out there too? And before I get to the name that's on everyone's lips at the moment, just we'll go with an individual that you sort of spoke about earlier, a Wildcat the last couple of seasons, Tai Webster. So he is out of contract too. And we actually had Corey James, who's a loyal Wildcat rap listener and Perth Wildcat in general. He sort of states that there's word around Webster being already out. Keanu Pinder, I think most of us probably know without it being officially announced yet, that he's on his way out too. And of course, Bryce is gone. So Corey James, thanks for giving us a bit of intel. We'll see how that unfolds. Do you see and do you think that Danny should be looking at re-signing sort of the Tai Webster? Like, does he offer so much to this team, and or are there better options out there? Your quick thoughts on Tai.
I think you kind of have to re-sign him, to be honest. He's already been with the team for 2.5 seasons, nearly 3 seasons now. So he's got the continuity. He knows the players, knows the coaches, knows the way around it. to lose Bryce and then that backcourt, we could also lose Henschel, mind you. Like, we haven't heard 100% on this, but if we lose Henschel in a month or so's time and you say no to Tai, then we've got nothing backcourt-wise. So I think you definitely need to sign him again because of the playmaking that he brings. Like, let's be honest, like when he's on, the passes he makes, the energy he brings, it's the best you can get out of a player. He's up and about. He's a loose unit, as they've said before. So to have him running the point, I think we need him 100%. And also, without Bryce there, you'll find that Webster can have the ball in his hands a bit more, make a few more shots. And just to date back a few years when he was with the New Zealand Breakers, he was having multiple 25-point games as the point guard there because he was open to those shots. He was allowed to take those shots and he was in that position. So I think if you have Tai Webster healthy, I see there's no reason to not bring him back. Even from a financial standpoint now for us, you lose Pinder, you lose Cotton. The bank is wide open. So to say no to Webster, you would have to have someone ready to go or someone that you know is going to come over and be better because it's a risky situation. If you say no, sorry, mate, we don't want you, that could backfire on us massively. So my eyes, re-sign him for a year, then reevaluate after that. But I think it's kind of a no-brainer at this point for us.
Yeah, he's like that classic energizer bunny and, the barometer of the team. Like, he missed almost 2 months of the season. And whilst they still went on that away winning run without him, he certainly played some strong patches of form in the back end of the season in their push to finals. So yeah, you certainly make a pretty strong case for him, and he's probably not going to cost them a heck of a lot of money. Elijah Pepper is a club option. I'm really hopeful that they take up that club option for him. So I've got big raps on him, and whilst I picked him as a player to watch in the finals, and he did absolutely nothing. So that was certainly a miscall there. I still have a lot of hope and faith in him that he can do a Ben Henschel and play NBL 1 or New Zealand NBL. Actually don't know where he's playing in the off season, wherever he is, have a really big NBL 1 season or NZNBL, wherever he ends up, and then come back to Perth and have just a really breakout campaign like Ben did this season. And Ben's, of course, the big watch this space too. Whether it's NBA or not, don't know if he's up to that level yet. And then if he does come back to Perth, or does he want to branch out and go somewhere else? Who knows? All right, let's get to, I guess, the big names. And let's start off with the one that's been, as I said, he's been on everyone's lips. He rejected an offer as Aaron Oliver, one of another Perth Wildcat rap listeners, rejected an offer to stay at Adelaide. So Aaron's suggestion, which I think we're all on board with you, Aaron, we should be chasing Kendric Davis. Now, I don't know how it's going to work from an acronym perspective. We've already got one KD. Dech, can we have two KDs on the team? Like, is that going to break the whole equilibrium of the acronym, kind of vibe within the Perth Wildcats? But like, jokes aside, though, give us your thoughts on Kendric Davis, and is this the perfect fit for Perth?
In my eyes, it is. Now, I don't want to say that there's a perfect replacement for Bryce Cotton because there isn't, but the closest you're going to get is Kendric Davis. I look at him as you've got Bryce Cotton as the master and Kendric Davis as the apprentice. Yeah, apprentice. So for the way he came out last season, the way he played, you'd be silly to not entertain an offer or ignore him. Like, we have got to put something there. Like, from a Wildcat management standpoint, team standpoint, fan standpoint, we all want it. It's more, can we get it done? And I think for him to reject Adelaide's offer, that's not because of the money. That's just because of how the team was and how he didn't get along with the coach. So he would know how the Wildcats are run. He's obviously good friends with Bryce Cotton. So they would be talking. He'd be asking questions. I think throw the money at him, see if we can get him. And then if he says yes, boom, that player to replace Bryce Cotton is there. Now you don't have to worry about getting that massive star piece that's going to run everything and be that sort of high-scoring player. So you're right. As Aaron Oliver said, chase him hard. And to have two KDs, I'd go Christian Doolittle, he's KD the first, and Kendric Davis, KD the second, because he's second on the team. So if we can run it like that, we'll be in a good little spot there, mate. Everyone will know who we're talking about. Maybe not the commentators, but we'll get there.
That's right. We'll find our way around the acronym challenge that may await us if Kendrick does sign. I know that his manager came out at the back end of last week, I think, and sort of said that the NBL is still very much a proposition that Kendrick would like to sort of explore to get those further ambitions for the NBA. So I don't think him sort of staying in the NBL is beyond the realms of possibility too. And, you know, Perth is certainly a great option for him. He'd get a nice pay packet. He'd have the keys to the car. And, you know, as you already said, has built up, you know, a really positive rapport with Bryce in even just across one season. So, yeah, he's certainly the big one that a lot of people are keeping their eyes on, peeled. And, you know, we're just waiting for Perth spots of Kendric Davis somewhere. You know, he was at Leaderful, or he was at a gym, or he had a bite to eat a Hungry Jack's. I don't know. So we're waiting for those spots to come in. Hopefully someone sees Kendrick sometime in the near future, and that might be the dead giveaway. All right, let's get through a couple more, you know, possibilities. We won't touch on all of them for too long, but and we have discussed some of them in previous episodes, but of course, in that time, things have developed or gone away in there. Here's an interesting one, bit of left of center, but Harry Froling. Well, he's sort of just coming back from injury from a few years ago, but I think he can hit deep shots. Oh, actually, I don't want to go too deep, but Harry Froling coming back from injury, playing in the NBL 1, had like a really great comeback game too. Sort of a little bit maligned with maybe his fitness, if we want to call it that, and, you know, possibly a bit inconsistent from his previous times. But I don't know. I feel like he could be cheap. He's not going to cost you much. Could be a nice deep bench guy. We're looking for fives, like, you know, a 4 or a 5. That's, you know, an Aussie guy. So from a cost perspective, from a roster guy, from a bench guy, that's just looking for anything to get back into the NBL. I don't know. It could be a sneaky proposition, but give us your thoughts on Harry, Declan.
I'm going to go the complete opposite. Now, viewer discretion is advised. Don't take this to heart, Harry, or any fans of Harry Froling. I know that his brothers would probably hate me for this, but he's coming back from an injury. His body's not 100%. He definitely needs to work on that. Like, it's over all of his past seasons, he's never been 100%. Like, he could take better care of himself and be in shape a lot better. And this isn't a personal dig at him, but he can't hit the deep shots. He doesn't have a very good 3-point percentage. His free throws are average at best. He can't dribble. In the paint, there's a lot of players that can move around the paint a lot better than him and are tougher, more athletic, smarter. And this sounds so cruel and so mean, but it's a big no. I just don't think you throw money at him, in my opinion, with the way that his body is, the way he's coming back. Look, if he has a breakout season for someone else and then in a few years' time you look at it and you think, yeah, okay, no problem. But at the moment, no way. It's just a waste of a bench spot, in my opinion, and he's not going to get many minutes. You've got Doolittle. You know, we're going to sign some big players in the 4 and 5, I can almost guarantee, by the end of this free agency period. So he's going to have no room anyway. And what's he going to bring defensively? Like, does he bring that much? Not really. So, big no, in my opinion. I think there's plenty of better options out there in the market. And this is not a personal dig at you, Harry. Just my opinion.
No, I like it, Dech. That's good. Keep me honest. And it's all about throwing the ideas out there and seeing what sticks. All right, let's get into the next one. And well, gee, he got us. This guy here, he got us a lot of likes, a lot of views. So we love this guy because he's so controversial, and we're big fans of him because He's so controversial, and people are so polarized in what he says. But just a really quick one on him, because we did go to town on him a couple of episodes ago. But Montrezl Harrell, sort of, I guess, if he chooses to stay in the NBL and come back, whether it's with Adelaide or, it might be, Sydney or Melbourne United, these big franchises, and Perth too. And of course, Perth, we know they've got 2 import spots available. So have you, like Josh Higgins, when we were on the podcast last time, and he was a big advocate for Montrez, which sort of took us back a bit, because I was probably a no from a culture perspective. But have you changed your tune at all, or you still give us your thoughts on Montrez?
I actually am changing my tune, I think, week by week. Now, this is a scary thing because I was 100% against him coming to the Perth Wildcats. But after Josh Higgins did a sign him up campaign, he must have done some sort of sneaky GoFundMe page or something, because it seems to be working. It's growing on me. I actually am starting to see where he can fit in now, next to a Christian Doolittle, next to a Tai Webster if he's playing for us. If he brings his A game along with that mental toughness, which he does need to work on because he can get flustered very quickly, lash out at the crowd, he gets a bit iffy. If he can nail that down, bring his A game, play hard, look out, because if you have Doolittle and him as the 4 and 5 at some point, man, that's hardcore scary for other teams. Like, you're going to have an import 4 and 5 to match that. You can't have, for example, a Harry Froling in the middle to match up against that. It's not going to happen. So that's kind of why I had that opinion as well. It's a yes from me. It's a yes. I have changed my mind. The viewers, you can have a dig at me in the comments. I'm all for it. I'm not like Derek Rucker. I love criticism. So hit me with it. But yeah, it's a yes from me.
Dech,
I'm firing shots today. I'm firing shots.
You're firing shots today, like the Australian government, Basketball Australia, Derek Rucker, Harry Froling. It's all on the table, but this is great, really, really great viewing. So let's get on to the next one. And I'm really so intrigued just to see where this next person is going to fall in Declan's eyes. Well, he's someone close to our heart. He's close to your heart. He initially was a little bit off in your eyes too. You wanted more of him. So could the Perth Wildcats re-sign Dylan Windler? So of course, Dylan, I think, wants to get back into the NBA. Whether any 10-day offers come his way, unsure. Watch his space if he wants to explore other options. But do you think that now Bryce is gone and Dylan's played alongside Christian Doolittle, who, that's a nice relationship that's already been established? Could this be an easy re-signing, or should they just really be opening the market big time to get 2 new guys in?
It's a tough one for me. I'm kind of tossing and turning on this because he's been very good for us at some points, but also very inconsistent. Now, I like Dylan as a player. I think he saved us in the finals. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have made it as far as we did. The only reason I'm tossing and turning now is because of how wide the bank is open for us and the level of players that we can go and get in his position. So if we can go out and spend big and get someone like a Vic Law, Antonius Cleveland, they're very high market sort of players with the athleticism, the scoring. That's the only reason I'm not 100% yes on him. Now, I wouldn't be upset if we re-signed him at all. I think coming back a second season, he would definitely be better than the first season. But yeah, that's the only reason, is from a money standpoint, can we go out and get someone better, more versatile, more high scoring? Probably. But as I said, I'm on the fence. If we sign him, I'm happy. If we don't, I'm not happy, but I'm not upset either, because I know what we can go and get. So it's a yes and a no from me. Do we re-sign him? If we can, absolutely. If we can't, I'm sure there's plenty of options out there.
Yeah, it certainly came down to his consistency. He had some massive games and pivotal ones in the back end of the season that pushed them a long way to where they ended up, sort of bowing out in the semi-finals. But, he sort of took a while to sort of get going too. But he's a known commodity. We know how important known commodities from an import perspective are in the NBL. So having someone that you're unsure of how they'll adapt to the game, well, that can certainly cost you big time when you're, splashing a lot of cash on a particular individual coming in. But you know what you're going to get from Dylan, and maybe he is going to be better having the run in the NBL too. So I'm sort of like you. I'm not going to be upset if they re-sign him. But you just threw out some names that weren't on my radar at all, but maybe they should be in Vic Law and Antonius Cleveland. So once again, bringing some great controversy to the podcast as always. I've got a couple more just to round us out here. Sort of a lot of talk about this individual is about he's sort of probably going to be in Melbourne, either a United or a Southeast Melbourne. Of course, was with Southeast Melbourne for a number of years, and I haven't picked it up already. It's Alan Williams. So that nice foil and compliment for Christian Doolittle. That true big. A monster rebounder, a floater machine. He loves the floater, especially even from the free throw line. We know that he can do it. Of course, prone to foul trouble too. So that would be a con of Alan Williams. But gives you quick thoughts on Alan before we round out our last couple of individuals we're going to chat about.
Yeah, I think you sign him up if you can. I mean, we've got obviously Montrez on our radar. Alan Williams as well, and you can't have both. So you'd have to pick one or the other. He's a team guy. He plays hard. He's got a good mindset. Foul trouble's the only thing with him, and possibly injuries that can kind of turn the luck onto the other side. But my personal take is if we can sign Alan Williams, absolutely do it. I think he fits well next to Alan Williams. Christian Doolittle. I think he fits well into the Wildcats program, the way the team's ran. He's an all-round nice guy. We've seen him on NBL Overtime. We've seen him around the league. He's a nice guy. I think he fits in well. It's a yes, in my opinion, but if you go into another direction with Montrezl Harrell, then you probably take that option just a little bit over him, just because of the cons. But I wouldn't be disappointed if we signed him at all. I think it's still a good signing for us and definitely compatible with the other players that we have so far.
Yeah, no, you're spot on in regards to identifying that both those individuals are the same kind of individuals that bring the same kind of strengths. Probably Montrez has got a better outside shot than what Alan does, and probably that mid-range game too. But you could go down that path of that true big. Montrez is probably more of a 4. Alan's probably more of a 5, I guess. Interesting from a big perspective from the imports and what nice options are out there too. So PJC, Parker Jackson-Cartwright. Well, I think like halfway through the season when, of course, we knew that there was the talk that Bryce may be leaving. Well, he was certainly firmly on the radar of Perth and a nice straight swap. If we have Kendric Davis as the number 1 option, you'd have to think that PJC Dech would probably be the second best option if you could get him. How do you think he would fit into this Perth Wildcats team? Quite a fiery individual at moments, just supremely quick as well too. But he's sort of got that all-round game, the mid-range, the 3-point, getting to the line. So lots of positives if Parker was to don the red and black.
100%. I think it's a great option to have. He's not signed anywhere else. We know he's not going back to New Zealand. They had their own sort of problems inside the organisation. He's definitely a quick player. He can play a bit erratical at times, throw the ball away. He can get a bit flustered at times. Now, these are just the cons that I'm going to rant off to start with before I get to the pros. He can be a massive mismatch defensively. Now, Bryce was a mismatch to a certain extent, but you could kind of make up for it in certain ways. But PJC, if someone gets past him, you definitely need someone to back him up. And he's quite a small guy. If you have a guard, for example, like Trey Kell, then that's a massive difference, overpowered instantly. So those are the small cons with him, but you'd have to find a way around them, and I'm sure you can. But from a positive standpoint, for his playmaking and his scoring that he brings, he was nearly what was he? Halfway through the season, he was number one in MVP ranking. So he's up there. Like, he's a top 5 guard in the league, I think. And if he can bring what he brought to New Zealand to us, along with a few other pieces, just to even it out a bit, I think it's a perfect fit. Obviously, you'd go for Davis first just because he's just that little bit better in every sort of aspect. But if you bring PJC in, I can't complain. The way he plays, the quick, the versatility, he doesn't really get in foul trouble. He can run an offense quite well. He's a big shot maker at times. It's a good match. I think you sign him, everyone's going to be happy. No one's going to be disappointed. So that's my opinion. He would definitely be the second option to Kendric Davis in that guard sort of position.
Yeah, no, plenty of pros there for Parker as well. And like the little minuses, they're sort of minor, and you would find a way to cover him. Like, we know that Bryce still got steals every now and then, but was he the most amazing defender across the whole season? Was he ever running for Defensive Player of the Year? Definitely not. So those kinds of guards that are really great at offense, they certainly have that deficiency from defense, a lot of them. So, you just find ways to build your roster around them to support, I guess, those kinds of players. Just a last one, then. This is a fan one. So Liam Finnegan, he said, Isaiah Leafa, you can have all the youth you want, but you need experience off the bench. And that's, a really fair call. So Isaiah Leafa, he's been sort of down the last couple of seasons, but he obviously had a breakout year a couple of years ago. So with Southeast Melbourne. So do you think that Isaiah, if he's available, could he be a nice bench piece? We know that he's, can be a dagger from the 3-point line, sort of like Todd Blanchfield, and maybe the role that Todd played for Illawarra. Could he play that kind of role coming off the bench, and a bit of experience for what could possibly be a young kind of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players on your squad? Of course, there are so many ifs and maybes at the moment. There's not really a squad that you can go, is he going to complement the other 9 guys? Because we sort of only got 3 guys at the moment, so it's so tricky. But our quick thoughts on Isaiah.
I think he has had a rough trot, I think, with Sydney, the way he's been playing. Would I sign him based off his form? Absolutely not. Like, he has been a dud offensively. Defensively, yes, he can guard the guards, but anything else, he's just getting overpowered. So if you were to look at his resume, see where he's been, see what he can offer, then, you probably do put him on the bench, but it's definitely at a lower pay rate than what Sydney gave. Like, he was on a decent offer there, I'm pretty sure. And from what he was doing, like, really, he's just playing the junk time for the guards to have a rest. Now, I just want to put this out there for Wildcats fans. If you have a Tai Webster, a Kendric Davis, an Elijah Pepper, and a Henschel, right? You have all of them. Where's Isaiah Leafa going to get time? Like, you're not going to run 3 guards. If you were to run a Kendric Davis, a Tai Webster, and an Isaiah Leafa, that's a mismatch, because who's going to be guarding the small forward, for example, right? Now, I don't want to dig too deep into that because it will create a whole nother argument, but he would need to be your kind of third option. You can't have him as a 5th option for a guard, because he's just going to get no time. At that point, you'd be paying him too much. He's going to be sitting on the bench doing nothing, and you're better off getting like a versatile 3 to 5 sort of guy that can come off the bench. That's a local that can play those positions, because those are the positions we need to have depth in as well. So that's my opinion. I don't think we sign him. I don't think he's a perfect match for the Wildcats. For other teams like a Brisbane or a Cairns, even Southeast Melbourne again, you probably could bring him and put him there and he fits better. But for the Wildcats, just the way we have it, the players that we pick, I don't see him as fitting in very well at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not. It wouldn't be a top pick for me. It would be sort of closer to the back end. Once you've got your 7, 8 spots sort of lined up, and if he's just keen to just come and get minimal minutes, and like he costs bugger all, then maybe you'd look at it. But yeah, I think there are other options out there. Last one, and we sort of gave this guy quite a bit of time when we had our last chat about the postseason and possibility of players coming in or out. So for me, this seems it would be a great fit, but it's just if he wants to come back to Perth, and it's Sunday Dech, of course, former Wildcat in his own right. So, and you know what Sunday loves is defense, and what have Perth Wildcats not had a lot of the last couple of seasons? Well, it's defense. But just give us a quick little wrap on Sunday, and if you think he might be a nice fit for the Perth Wildcats squad.
Yeah, 100%. Sunday, he is a great fit. Now, yes, he's another guard, and everyone's going to say, why'd you say no to Leafa and yes to Dech or Dech? The defense that he brings, we don't have a player that can do that in that position. We have a Doolittle who can guard the big guys, but we also need a defender in the small guards aspect. So if you have a Dech and a Doolittle, you have two awesome defenders that you can put on the floor at the same time. You can get scoring out of him. He can lock up Cotton, PJC, Davis. He can lock those guys up to an extent. So I think it's a massive yes. He doesn't want to be in Adelaide anymore. I'm sure he doesn't want to go to a Melbourne or Sydney where it's just you're fighting silly for spots. He wants to come in, play his role, be hard on defense. You know, he's respected in that way. And he probably wants to come home to Perth as well. His family's here. He's been here before. He knows the program, knows the fans. For him, I think he wants to come here. And for the Wildcats, I think it's a massive decision to make, because if we bring him in, it's definitely going to help us more than it's not. So massive yes, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with that one too. So yeah, hopefully Danny can find a way to sweet talk Sunday over the line. And hopefully, yeah, he's playing here, not just on Sunday, but also Friday and Saturday too. But that, of course, is the end of our podcast, unfortunately. So hopefully you enjoyed, as in the listeners, hopefully you enjoyed all of that, I guess, speculation, and also just the endless possibilities of individuals who may end up in the black and the red. Just before Dech and I sign off, I'm going to do myself a little bit of shameless self-promotion. Of course, NBL is finished, but the AFL season's up and running, and I myself do a bit of an AFL review and preview podcast. So you can hit us up. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's called Batt Banter, and if you would like to come on as well as a guest too, you're welcome to. So Instagram, Facebook, follow us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But for the real stuff, for the everything free agency, hit us up at the Basketball Fix. We know it's going to get really busy across the next week or two as all these decisions are made and announcements are made of new players coming and going, and that's where the silly season officially begins. And Dech, you and I will be back possibly with the big boss man, Josh Higgins, to see what and who may be coming to Perth. But Dech, thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, and maybe... Yep. You say you've been following Bryce in Puerto Rico. How is BC going, just quickly before we wind up our chat?
Yeah, so just recently he had a 21-point double-double, 10 assists. It's a very different league over there. They're allowed a lot more imports. They're a lot smaller stadiums. So it's very different over there, but I think he's enjoying his time. He's only there for a pay packet. I don't think it's a place that he would want to live or stay. It's one of those ones, you get your money, you get out sort of place. But he's enjoying his time. I think he's playing well. He's had a couple games where he's only got the 29, 30 minutes. So he's definitely not being used as the man of the league like he was here. But no, I think he's doing all right over there. I think he's kind of just using it to get through this off-season before he gets to his main destination, where he'll obviously light it up and, show his MVP caliber.
Yep, absolutely. And we started with Bryce, so I think it was only important that we finish with Bryce as well. Dech, look after yourself. Keep pumping the iron. You're looking ripping shape, mate. So just keep traveling as you always do. But from Dech and I, and of course the whole team at the Barstool Fix, well, we're out.
Did enough to wrench it away. Caught the dive for Hensel. You're kidding me. Dech and resolve has been tested. Cotton drops. Not sure what to do, so kicks it back up to the top. Shot clock at 5 for Cotton.